What's going on, guys? It's Mohammed, the host of Aware Alpha, and welcome to episode 84, 85. It'll be one of those episodes. And just want to say I'm feeling super grateful, super excited. And today we have another special guest on the show. And I'm super excited to have a conversation with her and pick her brain and just to see what we can take away from her. And I'm also just super grateful for all the feedback that I am getting from all the listeners that are listening to all the previous episodes and all the guests that I've brought onto the show these last couple of months. And it's only more inspiring, more fuel for me to do more of these interviews and continue to just follow my heart when I find these guests, and whether it's on social media, whether it's someone that I met through just networking in the physical world, I'm just super excited that I'm following my heart and letting my heart make these decisions. So with that being said, today's guest, she goes by the name of Kayma. She's a quantum business coach. And based on the things that I've heard, I'm super excited to ask some questions and dive deep with her. So with that being said, Kayma, welcome to the Aware Alpha podcast.
Thank you so much. It's such a gift to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. Really excited to have this conversation with you.
I love it. I'm glad you're just as excited and you're grateful for it as well. Just a question that comes off the top of my head. And I'm very curious to know, because I was watching something on your Instagram, where do limiting beliefs come from?
Ooh, such a great question. So limiting beliefs, they primarily, from those ripe ages of 0 to 7, I like to think of us coming into this world like a sponge.
Yeah.
And when we come into the world like this sponge, we're looking around us to really formulate our sense of identity. What am I doing here? And a lot of that obviously comes from observing our parents or those that are primary caretakers, really society at large. We're just this open sponge to really receive and create that identity through our belief system. So our beliefs can, come through our DNA, through our genetics. They can come through, as I've expressed, those ripe ages of 0 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
And they can come through, what we're taught, those belief systems that we're taught, and they can also come through our observance, and they can come through our own experience and the meaning that we've given to that experience. So let's just say, one of name a common limiting belief or a limiting belief that you might have.
Pretty much, I'm not good enough, for anything. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's been the biggest one. It's really funny. I've just been on one with the I'm not enough. So let's just cycle back to, those ripe ages of 0 to 7. Well, this could have definitely come in at a later time.
Yeah.
Typically, there are experiences. Now, a lot of the time when we are coming out of the womb as our unique being that we are, we pretty immediately realize, once we get a sense for things, that, wow, my unique true nature is not going to necessarily get me the love, the attention, the affection that I deserve. And so we learn that maybe certain personality traits or certain aspects of our emotional beingness or quirks or whatever that may be, that wow, me being who I really am is not allowing me to receive, again, that love that I desire. And so let's just say that could be a cumulative, that could be little experiences that happen where your younger self says, wow, I'm not enough as I am. And that could also be maybe a really embarrassing experience that you had, like when you started going to school, or something that was so, shocking to your system. Like maybe you got made fun of on the playground for something, and your younger self says, wow, that must mean I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not likable. I'm stupid, or whatever the definitions or the meanings are that we gave to that experience. And so then here we go and we create these beliefs that say, wow, I am not enough. amongst a variety of other beliefs. And so what tends to then happen is our body computer stores these beliefs. The way that we are programmed to work is that, okay, then our beliefs are then worked with our ego to create our identity. And whether it's a limiting belief or a belief that actually serves our highest good, the way that we are set up is that which we perceive and then attract in our external reality will come in to validate that belief to be true. So we have the experience or a string of experiences that create that belief or then affirm that belief. And then we go out into the world and we continue to attract experiences or perceive experiences to say to ourselves, yes, that belief is still true. That belief is still true until we come in. And luckily, in this day and age, we're even at the point where we can have a conscious exchange with our beliefs and rewrite them, recode them, reprogram them. So really, they're our operating system until we realize, hey, this isn't serving me anymore. And this is keeping me back from what I'm really desiring in this lifetime, because, I am not enough, even though, let's just say that was created way back when. Let's just say you're wanting to take that next leap in your business, and then you have that belief saying, but you're not enough. Remember all of these reasons and all of these situations, all of these experiences that prove that to be true. And then we can get caught in these loops, keeping us from what we're really truly capable of creating, manifesting, embodying in this lifetime. So
no, that's awesome. I love how you explained that. And my next question, actually, I have two questions, but let's just go the first one. So now, let's say one becomes aware of these limiting beliefs. They start to realize like, okay, yeah, you know what? Like all these thoughts that I have, these are just limiting beliefs. And this is not actually true. And it's not the honest answers. So what is the process that one could take to start healing or, changing these limiting beliefs? And let's just focus on I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not handsome enough, all these kind of beliefs, limiting beliefs.
Yeah, so there's a few different ways. What I would say, one is like realizing that and having the awareness that the limiting belief exists is the first step. I would say you can do inner child regression and healing to actually, I always say like your past is not written in stone. And so you can actually, and this is like really a lot of the one-on-one work that I facilitate is where we actually go back in time, and the quantum time doesn't exist. And we meet that version of you who started to believe that was true. And we bring in a new dynamic. And so it's like energetic alchemy that's able to occur when you are able to bring your now self and what you know to be true, the awareness that you have about beliefs, the awareness that you have about the truth of your being, and you get to bring that in and support the inner child you who did not have that awareness, and meet that part of you because they created that belief in an effort to keep you safe. Right? If I create this belief, then it will keep me safe in the future, even though in essence, the limiting beliefs are not really keeping us safe, right? As we know, they're keeping us small, they're keeping us stuck. And so what I find is having that exchange with the inner child and affirming, thank you for creating this. Thank you for doing what you felt was the best for me to keep me safe. And we no longer need this. You no longer need this. You are a whole, beautiful, worthy, etc. being, and really anchoring that in. And what I find is that in those experiences, you can actually witness your inner child shifting and changing, and kind of then allowing for that to ripple through your timeline. And it will create this experience of, wow, up until this point, if I had been living in the embodiment of the truth that I am infinitely worthy, capable, enough, beautiful, etc. Wow, what would that experience have been like? So
No,
that's one of the fun ways I like to do it. And really honing in on, what is that, like what I have found is that even with clients who have done subconscious reprogramming work, because you can do subconscious reprogramming also through meditation, through listening to like binaural beats, getting yourself into, particular brainwave states that allows your subconscious to become again really spongy so that it can be recoded, so to speak. Sometimes what I find is with clients that do that route without the inner child piece, they still get caught in the loop because there's a part of them that still doesn't inherently feel safe. And these beliefs, even though they're not serving them, is keeping them safe from like the vulnerability or that would come from showing up as their true whole embodied self.
I love that. I love that you mentioned inner child work. I'm a big fan of it. I started probably 2 years ago, and it's interesting that through just inner child work, doing that work, it was more for just healing childhood trauma and everything like that. But I ended up actually getting to a point where I started to heal like money limiting beliefs that I had about money. And the more closer I got, the deeper my relationship got with my inner child, the more my income started to rise, and the more I started to thrive in my life overall, right?
Yes.
I'm curious actually, how did you get into this space? Like, how did you get into this work where now you're teaching others, inner child work and limiting beliefs, and really helping people, consciously become, great manifestors, I feel, and really writing the reality of their lives, and really, being the main actor of their movie, I like to call this life, right?
Yes.
But I'm curious, yeah, like what made you get into the space? Like how did you just, because I know it wasn't just one, like especially in academics, they go to school, right? And then they're like, okay, I'll be a doctor. And what I love about interviewing guests like you is that it wasn't like, okay, I'm gonna be this teaching. No, it's like you probably experienced something that led you to discovering things yourself, and then you decide to have a passion for it and teach it, probably, right? But please,
Yes.
yeah, definitely share your story. I'd love to hear how you got to where you are today and what led you to where you are today.
Sure. And just one last piece to reflect on the subconscious reprogramming. I don't want to leave it hanging because there is just this one last little piece there, which
Yes.
is like what I have found really helpful. And for those that are listening that are desiring to reprogram, to kind of bridge the worlds of, inner child healing, subconscious reprogramming, being in that meditative state to real life, reality,
Yeah.
is to look, like, affirm at the end of each day proof of the new belief. Proof of the new belief. So like, look, so for an example, and I'll keep this brief, but I am not enough. Okay, the new belief is I am infinitely enough. I am an infinite creator being. You get to look at, wow, like what did I experience throughout the day? And even just maybe you just had a moment sitting out in the sun and it just dawned on you, wow, I am so enough in this moment. Life is so enough in this moment. Or perhaps you had something reflect back to you, in your podcast. Wow, look at that. Look at how enough I am. Like, look at what I've been able to really provide for others. So every single day, listing off and reaffirming that for yourself, for anyone that's listening.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And I always find, because bridging the non-physical world with the physical, I find to be, that sometimes that missing link. So I wanted to throw that in there. So as far as my journey, great question. We could definitely spend a long time there, but I would say in a nutshell, I would say from an early age, I was incredibly intuitive and knew that I wasn't going to have a traditional path. I was, exposed to different spiritual practices. I was exposed to meditation, things at a very young age, and realized, I would say probably in my early 20s, by the time I was 23, I had gone to college and thought that I was going to do something very opposite from, spirituality or intuitive work for a variety of reasons. And it was just so clear to me that this was going to be my path. It was always something that I was so incredibly interested in, and all of the books that I read, like that was just, I loved expanding my mind. I loved learning about subtle energy. And yeah, then when I was in my early 20s, I was living in New York City at the time, and decided to do my first Reiki training. And from that, there was a very like synchronistic moment when I signed up for my first Reiki training. The job that I had at the time, which was actually in the music industry, my hours got cut in half like within 30 minutes of me signing up. And so I just knew in that moment that things were shifting. And I said to myself at that time, okay, when I get laid off, I'm going to work at a yoga studio. And that was really what happened. And from there, my journey started with Reiki and yoga. And then from that point on, I was running my own business. So from there, from there, I ended up, when I moved out to California, and this was about 8-ish years ago, I opened up my own healing space. And so at that time, my work was primarily working with people in client sessions, one-on-one, doing, hands-on energy healing work. And a big focus point of my business was on crystal healing as well. From there, things just expanded and expanded and expanded. And I think a lot to do with my work with people one-on-one, with my work with crystals, understanding the unseen non-physical realms to an exponential degree. And within that, coming to understand how we can really work and play with them to create our reality. I would say, as that went on, it was really an intuition that has led each iteration and each expansion of my business and my offerings. So it was kind of like this ripple effect up until now, where it's like no more holding back. I think that it has become very clear to me that we are these powerful co-creators, that I think that it just took me really owning that as a truth, and owning that as a truth within the expression of my business, because there can be a lot of objections. And I feel like I have come to a place, and the limiting belief aspect is such a big part of it, where I know now how to handle the objections within those that I'm working with. So it's no longer just, you are the co-creator of your reality. And it's like, oh, there's a real depth to this, and there's a real depth as to why we are not already living in the conscious truth that is who and what we are.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm definitely, I like to say, I'm proud of you for following your heart and following your intuition, because, that is a hard work and a lot of awareness and belief in yourself to do that, when the world and everything around us, environment, family, culture, is trying to take you away from following your intuition and following your heart, right? So I'm definitely proud of you for that. And so a thought that comes to my mind when it comes to limiting beliefs about money. First of all, I feel like, a lot of us are not really even aware about that we have limiting beliefs. Everybody wants to have this amazing business. Everybody wants to be making $10,000 a month. And they just think the recipe is the next business, the next coach, and they're just trying to work hard. They're trying to work hard. In your experience, how much of, manifesting the desired income that we want is on an energetic level, and how much of it is really just the physical stuff that we're doing? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Great question. I mean, energetics always come first. And the reason why energetics come first is because it's truly an inside work play first. It's an embodiment first. And I feel like, sure, can you make money from the outside in and following the old way and do, work, struggle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we are in a new time. And I feel like it's becoming even more clear, even within my business, it can be so easy for anyone to get caught up in the outside in game. One scroll on Instagram, it can leave us pulling us out of our body and grasping and saying, well, how do I get that? I want that. And that will never be the heart-centered way. That will never be the way that feels really good and authentic when you actually create it or you actually have it. Because what I found is that, working with people at so many different financial brackets, it doesn't matter how much money you're making if you do not feel good in the creation and in the having of it. It doesn't matter how much is in your bank account. It is an illusion that money is going to give us the ultimate feelings that we want. It can give us the objects, it can give us the freedom of spending, but that does not mean that we're going to feel free. And so that is really at the core. I feel like the money comes, yes, not just through aligning with energetics. Once you have the energetics aligned, once you embody and get to know the feelings that you're actually believing that money is going to bring you, that comes first. Then comes the aligned action as to how you desire to serve this planet. It's got to come from in here first, and that to me is the energetics and the embodiment of what you are actually desiring.
You mentioned something, so the feelings of what that money going to bring. So you mean in a sense of actually you do the work where you become aware, okay, I want $10,000 a month. Okay, why do you want this $10,000 a month? What feeling is it that I'm looking for? And let's say the feeling is that I want to feel, well off, and I have the things that I'm looking for in life and everything I need. Now you want to start embodying and feeling that feeling way before it shows up in the physical world. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, beautifully said. And for that feeling, okay, I want to feel taken care of. It's okay, drop in. What is that feeling of being taken care of? What is that? What is that feeling? To feel nourished, to feel supported, to feel freedom is such a big one, to feel stability. Okay, so what I'm finding, is that just in this moment, I said the words, we tuned in for just a minute, and we could feel the waves of those feelings coming in. Now here, it's not just about then, okay, this is what I'm desiring to feel taken care of. That's at the top of my list, because for someone else, depending on their life story, they could be desiring, another core. I always say, boil it down to 5 core feelings that you believe that the external money is going to give you. And then start to tune into them frequentially in that feeling sense first. And then here comes the level of personal responsibility. If I'm desiring money to take care of me, where am I not taking care of me? Or where can I take better care of me before the money comes? Because money I think of it as a reflector and as an amplifier. So when then the money comes, it gets to amplify the ways that you're already taking care of yourself. It knows where to go. It knows how to flow. It is not the money that is going to make you start taking care of yourself. But even though that's what we've been conditioned to believe.
No, that's so true. So now, let's say somebody's listening to the podcast and they're like, oh wow, damn, I guess I might have some limiting beliefs about money. And what's the practical thing one can do to start becoming aware of, is there limiting beliefs that's that's running me? Is that the reason why I haven't got the $10,000 a month, the 5, whatever it is? I use $10,000 a month as an example. So How could somebody start becoming aware of what limiting beliefs are influencing their decisions and running their life? Like, what is some things that they can do on a practical level?
Sure. So one, I mean, in terms of the relationship with money, it can be really an interesting one because there can be this desire for more money. We are our higher, in our higher awareness, we can say, yeah, of course I deserve that. Of course that is what I desire. And then of course, then we have these underlying beliefs that are telling a different story and are telling a different story even about what it would mean to have money. Because again, one part of us can be saying, oh, I desire this. And the other side of us can say, rich people are bad. Like, remember all of these, like, look at all of the way that money is being portrayed in our society. I don't want to become that. And so right away, you're just you want to set yourself up for your own unique fullest expression in your relationship with money. Now, what I would say would be a great place to start is to think about money as though you were in a relationship with it, as though it were a romantic partner. And you get to have money, like take a moment to journal about this. And what would money say about being in relationship with you?
That's good.
So, and this is a really fascinating exercise because you just notice, wow, they don't really pay very much attention to me. They act like I don't exist, or they like really strangle and hold on to me, or they're really stressing me out, or so on and so forth. And so it's a great way to look at, wow, well, if this is what my relationship is with money, why is money going to want to be in my life? And this, so it starts to bring in some insight around, wow, okay, so then I look at this letter, I look at what money is saying about me, and then you tune in. How can I start to heal and repair this relationship with money and treat it as though I am in relationship to it? That said, what I find is really insightful about this exercise as well, money being that reflector, is that it reflects back to us potentially the areas, again, with our relationship to ourselves. Just as you said, you started doing the work with your inner child and it reflected in money coming in. This is the real magic, because then you realize, wow, is my relationship to myself, is that what this is reflecting? Or potentially something I didn't get from my parents or one of my parents. And so it starts to reflect like why the money is reflecting back to you this relationship. But then it's within each and every one of our power to heal that. So that could be, wow, what does my wallet even look like? Or how am I keep taking care of my money? Am I looking at my bank accounts? Even just, and I'm leading a class right now that's all about this, all about money energetics. And there is such a big piece. And I know for myself, for years, even checking my bank account, it was not even in my realm of interest, and not in my realm of interest. If I had to look at my bank account, I would be like barely looking and like doing things really fast, and it would create anxiety and all of these different things. That's not an intimate connection, and if I'm honest, it was reflecting the relationship that I had with myself at that time, and the way that whole reflection was going down. So, but in time, when, the more that I've healed the relationship that I have with myself, then comes in, okay, I can have a greater intimacy with my relationship with money. I can, whether or not I'm even like recording my finances, just sitting with the numbers that are in my bank account, treating it as a conscious entity, everything that I spend money on, allowing that to be a conscious exchange, thinking about money, speaking about money in a loving way, just as you would a romantic partner. So, and it's very interesting. I used to say, well, I'll just check my bank account, 2 times a week. And then it dawned on me, well, would I want just attention from a partner 2 times a week? Like that relationship wouldn't work out. And so it starts to create that level of care. It creates that level of intimacy, level of trust. It lets the money know how it's going to circulate and flow. It knows that where it's going to go in. it knows where it's going to be held. It knows where it's going to go. So where is your money going? You know, are you, when you're paying for your groceries, are you checked out somewhere, or are you conscious and a part of that exchange? Or do you, you know, do you even, like, when you look at your credit card statement, there were times where I'd be like, I don't know what that one is. I don't know. You know, and so to be able to create those rituals that says that yes, I'm in an empowered relationship with my money and I know exactly where it's going, and that allows money to be able to have that structure so it can flow.
Yeah, I know, that's amazing. I love the way you explained all that. I was actually, as you were talking, I was like literally thinking about, you know, I'm like, if I was in a relationship with my money, what would my money be saying to me? And like, I was getting happier and happier because I was like, my money would be like, you're amazing. I love the way you spend me. I love the way you invest me. I love the way you are aware where I come from and where I'm going. And like, I was getting happier and happier the more that you were saying. I'm like, okay, it sounds like my relationship is good. Like that, me and money are having a good relationship. I love that exercise because thinking about intimate, yeah, like if you are in an intimate relationship with money, how would money be feeling about you, and how would you be feeling about money? Like that is just that's so good. Like I think that's I think we could almost like charge for that part of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, that is rich, super rich. And what you just said, to reflect back as well, what, not only what money feels about you, but what you feel about money is obviously another key piece, because, and that's the one that I find will often reflect what we didn't receive from our parents. And not to, again, like go into victim of this happened to me, but just in terms of, once that awareness comes through, you realize too, like what you're actually being called to give to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm afraid, like I often, you know, when you think about money, wow, you know, I've worked with clients, I'm afraid that you're going to leave me. I'm afraid that you're never going to come in. I'm afraid that, you know, all of these things. And when you actually look back, like, oh, what is this relationship reflecting? So yeah, it's definitely a two-way street, both of which offer really rich insight.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I love, I love that. Like, I might actually journal on that after, because like, I think that's so good. So for yourself, so when you work with clients, what is exactly most of your work involved? Because I think when I was looking on your Instagram, there is a like a program that you have. I'm curious to hear more on that. Like, what is it exactly that you work with? Obviously, you have certifications in Reiki and a couple of things, right? But your main program or your main course, or like, what is it exactly that you do, and like, who are the type of people that you usually work with?
Sure. So I would say my core offerings are my single one-off sessions that, you know, are basically working with individuals, primarily conscious business owners. I also have a 12-week mentorship program where I work with, again, mostly conscious-minded business owners, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
For 12 weeks, specifically working on their relationship with their business, their business growth, but of course, all of the underlying energetics, because I've realized that so many programs are just focusing on, let's just say, the strategy, or like you were saying, the external, the doing, and you can do that as long as you want, but especially if you're an intuitive being and you know that you're here to really make a difference, you'll never feel that true fulfillment. So the underlying energetics and weaving in the healing component is huge. And then I have Quantum Money Mastery, which is my group program, which we're just about wrapping up this last rendition of. And this is really, I would say, a multi-dimensional approach to healing one's relationship with money. And again, everyone in the group is either a conscious-minded business owner, entrepreneur, or an aspiring conscious-minded, business owner, entrepreneur. You don't have to be to be a part of that group course at all. You're going to it's going to benefit you regardless. It can definitely be of the highest and equal service to anyone. And so really the multidimensional approach was, coming from my own journey, everything that, I've gone through, I've learned in order to come into a healthy and empowered relationship with money. And then really the structure of the course was a channeled creation. It was something that just wanted to come through me. So there it was. And it has a little bit of everything. It has obviously the component of limiting beliefs. It has a component of ancestral healing, of working with the spirit realm to heal one's relationship with money, inner child, shadow work, really every single like multifaceted lens that you could approach money. Given that we are multidimensional creatures and money is is one-dimensional, that it allows us to really, again, it's about coming back home. It's about deepening the relationship with oneself through a variety of different, practices, deep dives, transmissions. So it's really bridging worlds and allowing for, I just find a very holistic approach.
I love that. And it's interesting. It's the first time I'm actually thinking about it. Like I feel like something clicked for me just now. So I have, it's been 4 or 5 years now, 2019, when I got out of a 10-day silent meditation retreat and pretty much just started. It was one of those before and after moments of my life. Started a lot of, therapy, inner child work. I started with, just a lot of pretty much I had a lot of childhood trauma, right? So I started with shadow work. And then a year, 2 years into that, a lot of journaling and a lot of crying and a lot of just healing and processing emotions, which led to ego work. And then I started to do that for 6 months or so. And then that started the inner child work. And it's interesting, just now as you were talking, I was like, wow, like my income has, since 4 or 5 years, it's almost quadrupled in these last 4 or 5 years. And I had never really connected the dots till just now, where my question is, how important is it for someone that desires, like a good, like financial freedom, financial stability, a good business for themselves? How important do you think it is to heal childhood trauma? Of course, all that work, child shadow, ego work, all that stuff. How important is it to heal our childhood trauma in order to achieve, that desired income, that life that we really want? And you could say that it has nothing to do with it. You could make millions of dollars without healing your childhood trauma. I will totally understand that. But I'm curious to hear from you, especially working with conscious business owners, how important would you say it is to heal all parts of ourselves in order to achieve that desired lifestyle we're looking for?
Yeah, I feel like the life that we're looking for, I think, is the key piece. And because obviously we know that we can make a lot of money not focusing on any kind of inner healing. But does that feel very good? For me, it's been a direct reflection. But that does not mean, I think that sometimes we can even overdo and think that, oh, I have to have everything healed in order to take that next step in my business, to, show up as my full self, in my life, in my work, whatever that may be. So I don't want to, say it as it's this necessity as a, because I don't want that to even be a limiting factor. But I do feel that, yes, all of these components are hugely in relationship with us not only making money, but being able to hold it, being able to invest it, being able to receive it. Because there are all of these components, especially, if you've experienced childhood trauma. And, this is something that I can relate to. You can often not have a fundamental trust in the world, in others. And what does that trust do? It makes you also need to protect, need to always feel safe. And so you don't want to let anything in, never mind money. And so for me, the inner work, and as you expressed, it seems the same, has directly impacted how money can flow in and out of your life with greater ease. And the inner work, I find, is what allows us to feel more safe within our own body, more trusting in our own self. And what that leads to is confidence, is embodied presence, is like the motivation and the inspiration and the excitement to show up and to share our unique gifts with the world and to be of service. If that stuff, I've certainly, when I started in my early 20s, I was still, going through so much stuff. And even now there's still stuff to go through. So there's never, again, like, you've got to have it all healed in order to do anything. But it's more about I find the quality of your life. My life the quality has dramatically improved. I mean, and it only continues to, the more that I care for my inner world.
I love that. No, you definitely said it perfectly. I feel like healing is a lifelong journey, right? So you're never truly healed. So it's exactly, we don't want to set those limiting beliefs here, saying that you have to be fully healed before you can make that money. And necessarily you can still make that a lot of money without healing that inner child or doing that inner work. Just personally from my experience, and also just having some very in money currency, having a lot of wealthy friends in my circle, something that I've experienced. And even myself, I'm 32 now, but my early 20s, before the inner work started, I was able to achieve some financial success. And from my personal opinion, I believe that without the inner work, doesn't matter how much money you truly make, you will always feel empty some way, somehow. And you will continue to just assume, okay, I got to make another 10 million. I got to make another 10 million. And if you don't actually do the inner work, or even take the time to be like, okay, maybe it's not more money that I want. Like maybe something else is going on, and I must just really, guide and look and listen and see if there's something else that I need to do to feel fulfilled, because this, like, the money is not doing it. And that's just my personal opinion, right? I'm just a 32-year-old, there's living this life in this physical world right now, in this suit that I'm wearing, the physical body. But from my experience, I have noticed that if we don't do the inner work, you will always feel empty some way, somehow, and not fully be fulfilled. And it's not the money that can bring that, fill that cup there. It's actually the inner work. And some of us, don't really, might have just grown up in a very good family. Mom and dad did love us, very well. But still, we all are carrying some kind of trauma, some kind of, that requires some kind of paying attention to it, just paying attention, just going back and seeing those first 7 years old, what really happened, and how that has influenced me and shaped me into the adult that I am, right? Just personal opinion, that's what I feel. So yeah, no, I love everything you just shared, like this last 45 minutes. I feel like the audience is going to take a lot away, and it's definitely even the work that you're doing. I love that you have just followed your intuition and followed your heart, because I believe that everyone should do that. Everybody should follow their intuition, be brave enough to follow their intuition. A question that comes to my mind is that when we first start to get into this journey of following our hearts and following our journey, our intuition, it's hard to separate which one is the heart and intuition and which one is fear talking. So how would you suggest, or what is your thoughts for someone to be able to separate those things, where like like this thought's coming, this decision is coming, like I should quit this job, or I should leave this person, I should join this organization. Yet how can I tell which one is my intuition talking and which one is it actually just fear talking?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and this is something I've pondered, for a long time. And a few things that I've come to with this. One is, fear is driven by the ego, and the ego will always act as though it knows. And so I call it sometimes the intuition ego snowball, where your intuition said one thing and then your ego said the other, and then you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And you realize if you just step back and you say, I don't know, the truth will emerge. Now, that said, looking at, if you take a moment to look at the motivation behind the choice or the action. So this takes, yes, a level of self-inquiry and contemplation, but what is driving my desire, even for more money? Or what is driving my desire to grow my business? What is driving my desire, whatever that is, to have a relationship, or whatever it is in your life? And if it's coming from, and if you get really honest, it's coming from, well, I don't have enough, or look at what those other people are doing, or whatever it may be. It doesn't mean that the choice or the action is necessarily wrong. The desire is wrong, right? Your desire to grow and expand your business. But this is what brings you back into your power, because the individual then gets to claim, okay, I'm going to move through all of these limiting beliefs that I can see are in the way from this being a really pure heart-centered exchange, a really pure heart-centered choice or action. So it does take a little slowing down and an opportunity to really listen and get honest with oneself about what are those voices that are coming up, and about what the underlying motivation is for that choice.
Interesting.
And again, anything that is giving your power away, thinking that something else is going to make you feel a certain way, or is going to solve your problems, or is going to make you feel more worthy, more lovable, more likable, whatever it is, money, job, relationship, house, etc. Doesn't mean that those things are bad, but this is that opportunity to say, wow, first, I am whole and complete. Can I come back to my heart? And that's when we know, oh, now I'm coming from a place that's whole and complete, and I desire to grow my business, not from a place of lack, but from a place of who I get to serve, the impact I get to make, and what is that impact. So again, it's coming from the inside out. And that is what gets to really fuel one's choices and one's actions, rather than, again, like, is this an outside in? And for intuition, sometimes those sparks can be confusing. Wow, but typically sparks of excitement, things that light you up, things that feel really expansive, tuning into, I would say, like, tune into your yes and into your no. What does that yes feel like? When something has been a yes in your life, what did that feel like in your body? How did you know that it was a yes? Like, without question. Something was a no. How did you know that? What did that feel like? Was it contracted? Did it feel dense, etc.? And so when you start to tune into energy, when you tune into feeling, you build it like a muscle. And you better get to know, oh, this is my heart, this is my ego, or this is fear. And with intuition, again, we can get more and more refined, because there are layers of why we would potentially be more resonant with one choice rather than another, based on where we are in our growth, in our evolution. And so it doesn't mean always that, and this is what our ego wants. Our ego wants our intuition to be 100% right in the way that it wants it to be. It wants it to say, well, okay, if I'm going to follow my intuition, it's got to look like this. This has to be the outcome. And it, like, strangles the purity of that calling. So it just takes it like another layer deeper, that, okay, I am following my intuition, but it's if it doesn't turn out the way that my ego wants it to be, or is projecting into my future, that doesn't make me wrong, because often our intuition is leading us to something for a completely different outcome than what our ego thought it should be.
No, that's good. I like that. That's interesting. I feel like I could take some notes on that.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because like it's interesting, right? Like we naturally have these thoughts, these negative thoughts that are always running us. So now it's like following your heart and your intuition. It can become so confusing for someone super early on because they're like, well, I've been following my heart all my life. But no, you actually been following these limiting thoughts and these negative beliefs that that's not your heart. And it sounds like, one of the best ways to follow your heart and your intuition is to slow down, to be more, right? And we live in a world where it's doing, right? And it's like, no, it takes time, introspection and sitting with yourself, whether it's meditation, like with yourself, spend time with your thoughts, pay attention. And I think the more you pay attention, the more you will be able to get in touch with that inner voice, which is also, it's another word for intuition, I believe. And then it will just get more clear and more clear and more clear. So no, I love that. I love that you shared that. So when it comes to relationships, right? I feel that it's the same thing, right? We come from, traumatic experiences, mom and dad might not have had, especially if we come from a dysfunctional family. So then we have just all these limiting beliefs, these abandonment issues, all these things. And then we come into our life, in our adult lives, and we, end up getting in relationships in and out, in and out. And I think it kind of same thing. There's just these limiting beliefs, which, makes us feel like we're not good enough. And then we end up settling for these partners that is not actually as, it's not fulfilling. It just doesn't go anywhere. Right. How do you feel like, from your experience, like limiting beliefs play out in relationships?
Yeah, I mean, you think you really just nailed it. They're influencing everything in our reality. It is it is the fabric of our reality, our belief systems. And yeah, certainly, what we've experienced in our early childhood does show up in our relationships, I think sometimes no matter how unserving the relationship is or how healthy it is. Anytime that pretty much most of the time that if my partner and I get into some sort of argument or disagreement, if we really look at it and get really honest, it's not about what's actually happening in this moment. It's about, we can look back and say, oh, this is reminding me of when this thing happened, like in my past, and the way that has played out in relationships up until this point. So sometimes it does take a really healthy relationship and bond to be able to hold space for the processing and the releasing of those outdated traumas to move through. But I think that does take, conscious, intentional individuals coming together. As far as, making choices based on, being in relationships that aren't serving us, and again, like relationships tend to be this portal through which we try to heal our past. Because it's like it's unfinished. And so if we're not, again, taking the responsibility to do that for ourselves and really humbling ourselves through the process of the relationship, but then also knowing like, are we sacrificing our joy, our well-being, our livelihood based on fear? Based on the fear, most commonly, that I will end up alone. And what we sacrifice based on that core fear. And what that core fear, so interestingly, will lead us to, what moments of actual loneliness lead us, it's the direct portal to self-love. But so often, and we just get stuck in that about what we are making loneliness mean. And again, here comes the meaning, because loneliness does not mean I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, but all of those things. That's where we get to say, no, like I love moments where I'm alone. And how can I cherish those moments when I'm alone? And when you actually come into those deeply like vulnerable spaces and you realize, oh, this is what I've been looking for all along. That's like that's the portal of magnetism and creation and all these things, where you no longer have to like pull from the outside to fill these voids. You are fully in the void and fully, you're safe in the void, and you're cultivating that connection with yourself. And then you are able to exercise discernment when you go out into your reality and you know what is in alignment. Then here comes in that intuition piece. What is in alignment with this frequency that I am cultivating from within? What is my yes and what is my no? And if a person comes in and you know it's a no, but you're saying yes to it because of fear, because of lack, it's going to combust. Just like if you're building your business from that place, it's not going to be fulfilling. It's going to eventually crumble. It's not going to be sustainable. So it's having that level of faith and trust in yourself and reality at large, that by saying no is only going to lead you to a greater yes. That takes trust, but that's again where the inner work comes in.
Yes, no, I love that. And it sounds like what you were saying, pretty much like what I was also taking away, is that the importance of, like loneliness is, that feeling. It's actually a time for yourself to love yourself. A lot of times the validation and the compliments and the things that we're seeking from external world, we can actually give that to ourselves. It's most of the times it's our inner child, like, just wanting to just have a conversation with you, right? With your own self. And pretty much what I took away from that last part you were mentioning is how important it is to spend, if that time that you do have with yourself, spending with yourself, learning about yourself, learning to love yourself, because the more you do love yourself, the more you're able to have those boundaries of, boundaries. And then first of all, when something comes along that is a no, you're not going to settle for it. You're not going to fall for it, because you have taken that time to heal and, take care of those parts of yourself and love yourself and respect yourself. So when the yes comes, then you're ready for that as well. Because a lot of us actually that haven't experienced healthy love or healthy relationship can usually be triggered or find it boring when we do experience a healthy love, right? When we do find a healthy relationship. And that's why I think it's also so important to do this work and love yourself, heal yourself, all these things, at least get close to it, because then you can actually be able to spot those feelings. And that's also another thing of being good with your intuition, right? Where you're able to feel when, a healthy relationship, it might feel boring or it might feel triggering, but you're able to tell from your intuition that this is, this is the right thing. This is, and, it's not your anxiety and everything like shooting and like, no, this person is not good and all that stuff. You're able to tell by just being in tune with your intuition, all these things, right? So yeah, no, that's amazing. I think it's
great point. And that could be like that could be a whole nother podcast episode, because that's certainly been a part of my journey. And I found that shadow work is one of the greater tools with that, because even if, there's been numerous times in my life where my intuition was like, this is the good choice. And there I was like, no, thanks. I'll take this one for like the fun or for the story, but always ends up crashing and burning and you end up suffering. But that is certainly a pattern that we go through, where we don't want to fundamentally choose good because we believe that it's going to be boring, but really it's our shadow playing out. But because good, as we've come to realize, you can sit in meditation for 10 days and not do anything and be connected to source and love, and that's far from boring.
Exactly.
So it's recoding the things that we've been convincing ourselves are true.
No, that's amazing. I love this conversation we had. I think there was so much that I even took away myself. You have a wealth of knowledge with all the things that you shared, and just somebody that has actually followed their heart and followed their intuition. I'm very excited for everyone that gets to work with you, because I feel like they definitely see great results. And lastly, I want to say also thank you so much for jumping onto the podcast and giving us an hour of your time, because like I said, it was just a beautiful conversation. Please let everybody know where they can find you. I will enter all your information in the details section of the podcast. That way, if they want to work with you, reach out to you, follow you, they have no problem doing that.
Sure, absolutely. So my website is a great place, which is KaymaEngland.com, KaymaEnglund.com. And on social media, Instagram is where I am primarily, and that is my name, Kayma dot my last name, Englund.
Okay.
So it's such a gift. Thank you for having me. This is a really potent and beautiful conversation, and I just hope that it ripples out and is of service to your community.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you so much. Like I said, it was a pleasure of mine to get to talk to you, have this conversation. I'm excited. I'm sure everyone that's listening to it is going to take a lot away from it. And just as I finish off the podcast, I like to set up some intentions for anyone that's listening. My intentions are truly for anyone that listens to this podcast to hopefully take something away from it and start to implement it in your day-to-day life. My intentions are that you learn something from this podcast and also just learn the importance of following your heart, following your intuition. My intentions are for you to realize that this life that we have is not about doing all the time. Sometimes we have to take the time to just be with our emotions, with our thoughts, with ourselves, and get into our body and truly just pay attention. My intentions are for you to truly do more of that and do more journaling and truly discover not who you think you are but who you really are. And lastly, I'm excited, and until next time, stay an aware alpha.